This is the homepage, and depending, I do all my work in here as the administrator, but typically you would be given a role such as preparer or reviewer, and that role would dictate which of these screens you had access to. So rather like NetSuite itself. You've got some reminders, so things that you need to do over on the left-hand side. And again, we can drill into those as an organisation. We have 80 late reconciliations, which is not great. But we can just drill in and get to look at those. Now, one of the other things that is missing when we use Excel or a paper-based reconciliation system is visibility for the key stakeholders. So they are unable to have a clear view on where we are in a month-end process. You know, how many reconciliations have been done? What's still outstanding? Where are they sitting? Is someone off sick, for example? So one of the benefits of putting in a system and systemizing the process is to give your C-level, your management level, visibility into how long things are taking and where things are. So as a controller, I may never be interested in the approving of a reconciliation or the preparing, but I would be interested in where we are organisationally. So what we've got there are a whole suite of reports, but there are also dashboards that give us visibility into anything that has been posted into the system. So if I come in and look at a dashboard overview, this is a very simplistic one, and this is by different account type. Where am I in terms of the reconciliation process? So again, I can see not doing too well. I've got one on time. If I drill into that one on time, I can then drill into that single reconciliation and take a look at it. If it were a big list, I can export that out to another format should I want to. I can change the view by format, so I might want to start assigning my accounts with risk ratings so that we can get the high risk accounts done first as part of our month-end process. So in this scenario, I can see that I've got high, low, and medium risk accounts, and that could be based on whatever you deem necessary. And I can see where we are in terms of those. What I can also do is perhaps by organisational unit. So if you are multi-regional, multi-geographical, and you want to start looking at stuff by geographical region, I'm now, excuse me, I'm now able to see, okay, well, the US is here. And again, I can drill into the complete or incomplete dashboards and start to look at perhaps somebody's off, or they've not been, you know, there's a manager off, so nothing's moving on. So they're examples of some of the dashboards. Then we've got compliance dashboard. So this is similar. It just goes into a little bit more detail or more graphical representation of how that data is made up. And again, down here, I can change the views. I can look at them by what's with a preparer, what's with a reviewer. So again, I'm able to start seeing where bottlenecks are or where things aren't moving as quickly as I'd like. We can also build our own custom dashboards. So we are able to build dashboards based on any of the information within the system once we've got a feel of how it all hangs together. So we can start to build in different levels of information using graphs or charts. So there are a couple in here that just show different graphical representations of the data. So rec status by primary preparer, or reconciliations by those different methods that we talked about. So I've got 640 that are a single, just one column of data, and 242 where I'm comparing multiple balances. So again, it's just to give you a view of some of the things that are, and this is something that you would struggle to get from an Excel workbook. Okay, so that's a view that a chief financial officer or a finance director may want to look at. What about a day-to-day user? So a day-to-day user has a work list potentially. There is also a task manager available now for NSAR, and the EPM products all link quite nicely in. So if you're using NSPB and NSAR, you can share users. You don't have to have a user of both. If you've got one user that needs to use both systems, they can log into either. So a user will have a work list, and stuff is routed to them on their work list based on all manner of information. So we have just got our accounts that we're due to reconcile, and they have due dates, which is where they'll fall into late. And we've also got these red bells that indicate that an alert has been raised. Now, an alert can be raised manually or automatically. So an alert could be raised because something has happened on the account that has triggered the raising of that alert, like the variance is too great. So on a variance flux, the variance is too great, automatically trigger an alert to this person to let them know. Or it could be that whilst I am preparing an account reconciliation, I have a question about it because something on the account doesn't look right, or something has come up that hasn't come up before. And whilst yes, always you could just pick up the phone and ask, if you add an alert into the account to do it, it is then recorded on the account and can become part of the audit of that account and may be useful to others. So that's where we use alerts. So an example of one that this has been generated on the trade receivables account because there was a deposit entered inaccurately. So it just forms part of the audit if we do them via the system rather than dropping an email. Okay, so the user comes in day by day, works through their work list until they've completed their process, and so on and so forth. And again, we've got a free search, and we can add in additional filters to make the screen more friendly for us while we're using it. Now we move on to reconciliations. So reconciliations themselves. And again, we've got different views on the data. We've got a free text search and we've got some filters. So we're able to add filters or change the filters to facilitate us searching through the system. So if we look at account analysis, we were saying account analysis is where there is a single account. We'll go in and have a look at an example of each. We could look at all accounts for our US sub. So this is all of my account codes. If we take a look at auto reconciled, so accounts that have been auto reconciled, these we've set a rule on the account that if the balance is zero, or if the balance is zero and there's been no movement, or if there's been no movement, then we can set the account to auto close. So again, the idea is that we're trying to automate and facilitate speeding up the process. So where nothing has happened, let's set them to auto close and do a spot check potentially. So they're all options that are available to you. Whereas if you're extracting it into Excel, you'd probably have to extract the data to know that there had been no movement. So you're still doing some work. We also have the ability to group accounts. So in my example, we don't want to reconcile each individual fixed asset account. We're only interested in doing the reconciliation at the top level. So what we've done is we've rolled all those fixed asset accounts into a masked fixed, well, it's a mouthful, fixed asset account, and we are reconciling at the top level. You can subgroup, so if there are any organisations that do GL departmental reconciliations, we can group down too. So the functionality is there to group this data together, and we're able to see the status of those is always closed, but the top one is open. So let's go in and take a look at a reconciliation. So let's look at a prepaid insurance account. So this is our reconciliation screen. So it gives us a graphical representation, and over on the right hand side lots of additional information which we will go through. So we can see the beginning balance is 895. If we wanted to validate that, we can just click back to the prior month. I can see there at the bottom that it's 895.1, but we can drill in to that. So quickly and easily I validated beginning balance. It's been pulled forward anyway, but validated the beginning balance because I checked that the last reconciliation that has been closed and signed off finished at 895. I've got the net activity of 137 XXX and an ending balance of 757, which is what I'm trying to explain. So if I drill into that, I have got a summary explanation that says that this is the prepaid expense balance. Now, in terms of what we can put here, it has just been keyed in here, a balance explanation, but this could be a keyed in balance explanation, or it could be sucking in a list of transactions that make up that 757 from an Excel spreadsheet or from NetSuite Saved Search. So there are lots of options about populating the data in there. Let's go back to the summary and let's take a look at what is over on the right hand side. So I've got all the comments that relate to the reconciliation. At the top I just have the properties of the account, so it just tells me a little bit about the account itself. Then we have, in order to facilitate certification and compliance, what we've got are a list of instructions. So I may know how to reconcile this account, but because it's my job, but if I'm off and someone has to cover me, or if I go on holiday, then we've included the instructions there with a step-by-step process of exactly how this account has to be reconciled to be certifiable. So we have to drill back to the source documents, we have to verify the asset balance for the period, we have to look at the amortization schedules and the amortization journal entry, and we have included links to those relevant reports or journals within the instructions so that I never have to find them. They're just there and I can click. Now, in addition to this, to lend itself to certification, you can also put in a set of questions that have to be answered. So it effectively forming part of an electronic signature. So you can make these mandatory and you can give a drop-down list of suitable answers, or you can make them free text. But did you comply with all the company policies? So did you go through all of these steps? Have you attached your supporting documentation? So that might be that the supporting documentation in the balance explanation has to be sucked from a saved search of data for the given month as to what makes up those amortizations. Just as an example of process. And did you clear any adjustments? So once and it won't allow, if you make those mandatory, I won't be allowed to complete my part of preparing the reconciliation until all those things have been done. So let's look at the drills through. So what we've got here is we need to see the links for the amortization schedules and the monthly journals to validate these two fields here. The net activity and the ending balance should be tied up in these. Now, in real life, your accounts may not be as neat, so it might be an accumulation of amortization and non-amortization, but for the purpose of showing this in a demo, it's all done neatly. So if we go and look at the demo amortization schedules, this has automatically taken me into NetSuite. Now I am just in my version of NetSuite as my user, and what I can see is that 757.347.13 ties back exactly to that figure, and I could suck so that link will update. So when I run it next month, it will be the next month's data. But what you can do is you could suck that data in, and that information there would be listed in the balance explanation to validate that 757, because the rest is a moving target. So with one click of the mouse, I'm able to see, I would be able to see that in my balance explanations or in my screen here. And what I also want to do is validate that the net activity is the total amount of the journal entries that I posted, just to confirm. And again, what I can see is 137 there, ties back exactly, sorry, I've got a lot of stuff open at the top now, ties back exactly to the 137 in there. So I am happy that that reconciliation works. From then on, I am just in standard NetSuite. So what happens is that you get this additional drop down that governs how the data is passed between the two systems. Okay, so what we are, so we have done all the steps, we have answered the questions. We'll just go through some of the other things that are available in these drawers, and then we'll look at a couple of other accounts. So we alluded to alerts when we were talking about the work list of the user. This is where those alerts are. They, as I said, they can be system generated alerts. So if something happens like this on the account, then do this. Or I could just enlist via the system the help of someone else to validate something because I'm a little unsure. It just brings it into the reconciliation. We have workflow. So in my workflow, the minute that Vince has done his part, it moves on to the reviewer. We may have more than one reviewer for particularly high value or high risk accounts. So it doesn't have, we've got two, and generally it's two in most of the organisations that I've worked with, but we do have the ability to deal with more. We've got a warning because the account is late. You would like not to see that on your own versions. Then we've got the questions that we talked about. We can add transaction or balance explanation attachments from within here. We can add additional comments, which we can also type from the front screen, but we can add additional comments and links and attachments, and we can choose to carry them forward to the next reconciliation. And then down here, a full audit history. So everything that has happened on this account, who has touched it, what has happened with the account, who's done what, and complete visibility from start to finish. So that is an example of an account analysis. We won't go through all those boxes on every single one. What we'll do is let's look at an example of a balance comparison. If you remember, that is where we are comparing something to something. So in this example, it could be my balance sheet account, and it could be an off-system spreadsheet from a shop, or it could be a till system, or it could be NetSuite data, the sum of all my creditors. So again, there's drills to the aging report because that would validate that balance, but that everything is kind of the same. It's just that we've got two columns of data. One of the other things to mention is that we do have the options to reconcile different currencies, so we can do the reconciliation at different levels. The last account type is variance flux, or the last reconciliation method was variance flux. So that is where we are looking at the difference between the ending balance last month to the ending balance this month potentially. So again, if we look at retained earnings, the current period balance and the balance last year and what the difference is, and then we're explaining that difference. And like I said, again, the month-on-month difference is the total of my net income, but I could suck in stuff from the Sage Search from NetSuite to back up or validate that balance should I want to. And again, we've got all the drawers and trays available for that. One of the last things I just wanted to show on here is that we can also incorporate, because we're going to look at transaction matching briefly now. We can also incorporate transaction matching into an account. So this is an example of my accruals account where we have the age-old problem of posting receipts from purchase orders, and then we get the vendor bill in. But when we want to look at the total balance of the account, we see all the ins and outs. So what we've done in this example is we have utilized the transaction matching engine of NSAR to match off all debits and credits that have gone before. So when I drill on this 116, that's my true accruals balance because it's only showing me item receipts that don't have a vendor bill. So it can be quite powerful to use in that respect because very quickly and easily I've just got to the 9 transactions that make up that accruals balance rather than the 20,000 transactions that have gone before it that are ins and outs that still lead to the same balance. So that's a touch on transaction matching, and that takes me into the transaction matching window where I would see item receipts in one window and vendor bills in another. We're going to look briefly at transaction matching now, which is the premium edition, just to show you some of its capabilities. So transaction matching, we've got a number of different transaction matching elements set up, and we can see that we're doing 2 transaction matches, so we're matching something to something. So if I just go in and so the idea is that you set it to suck in the data, run an auto match. So when you come in, you're just managing by exception, but I'm just going to walk through a little bit of it manually for the purposes of the dem. So at the moment, nothing is matched. And when we come in, I can see my geo lines and I can see my bank lines. So potentially I could just go through and start matching these manually. I get a total at the bottom, and then I could just go through and match them. What we'll do is we'll run the process. So I will just run an auto match and that will go away and match them. Now, I've got 2 sources of data, but you can actually have up to 4. So it could be that you've got a payment system, a booking system, and a summary in NetSuite potentially, and you're doing a 3-way match, and transaction matching can manage that. So now I can see it's done my matches, and it's got a few that maybe haven't quite met criteria, so it's asking me what I want to do. So if I go to with adjustments, for example, what it said here is that it's 7,000 up here, but it's 7,000.07, and because I haven't set tolerance on this match rule, it won't alter, is making a suggestion rather than a confirmation. If I'd set tolerance of 10% or 1%, it would have allowed it through. But what we can see over here is that it has also tried to estimate where to post that adjustment to. So it's got an adjustment type. It thinks it's a rounding adjustment, and therefore it's picked up all the details. So if I confirm that, that will post an adjustment. If I'm not happy with the default, I can change the type and that will change. So this would automatically post information back to NetSuite for me. So I could quite quickly get the data all back into NetSuite. So that's an example of how the transaction matching engine can work. And as I said, we can do high volume, many to one to many, lots of matching strengths and capabilities there. Okay, drawing to a close, there are a number of reports. We've looked at dashboards, and then you can get some reports that you can take out to PDF or CSV or Excel on any of the information that we've seen. There is also a report binder. So this is a report that you might produce for your auditors. So if I come in here, I can look at what's missing. So checking for missing reconciliations. I can run through these processes, import map data. Then you can generate the report binder and include all of that detail, and that can form a report that you can provide to your auditors should you want to.